I'm Patti Ann Browne for FoxNews.com. On Tuesday, the voters spoke on the candidates and also on some controversial issues. States moving to expand the nationwide trend toward legalizing marijuana. 4 states, Arkansas, Florida, Montana, and North Dakota, passed ballot measures legalizing medical marijuana. And 5 states considered proposals to legalize recreational use of the drug. It passed in 4 of them: California, Massachusetts, Nevada, and Maine. Only Arizona rejected the measure. Joining us now to talk about it, an attorney at the Harris Moray law firm, Hilary Bricken. Hi, Hilary.
Hi, Patti Ann.
So medical marijuana use was already legal in 25 states and the District of Columbia. Recreational use was legal in 4 states and D.C., and now it's spreading further. Hilary, what's your reaction?
You know, I'm really quite happy as a lawyer in the industry. I'm glad that the momentum of legalization is really pushing across all borders now. To me, the most surprising result in some ways was Florida, because it's so very conservative. And to get a constitutional amendment by the people in that state, you have to have 60% of the vote, and they just killed it with 71%. So they are ready for full-blown medical cannabis, which is really just mind-blowing given the politics in the state.
California's vote also considered especially significant. The Washington Post says, quote, given the size of that state's economy, California's adoption of legal marijuana could prompt federal authorities to rethink their decades-long prohibition on the use of marijuana for any purpose. Do you agree?
I'm not sure that I agree that California is going to have immediate influence over the federal government. For decades now, the federal government has been in this dance with the states over states' rights versus federal enforcement policies. Now that Trump is president, for sure, if he appoints a Chris Christie or a Rudy Giuliani, we could see a total shift in how the federal government has been treating these state-licensed, state-sanctioned businesses. I would hope that California will be influential, and surely it has been in the past. But with a new presidency and a new regime, it's really anyone's guess.
A growing segment of the marijuana industry is so-called pot edibles, cannabis added to chewing gum, cookies, brownies, mints, etc. These are federally regulated, but enforcement is left to the states. What is the latest on marijuana-infused foods?
Well, that is an emerging area, because as we go along, it's really trial by error for the states. We literally have no federal research or assistance when it comes to packaging, labeling, and dosing. So the states, really on anecdotal evidence alone, are trying to determine what is safe versus what's unsafe. And again, it's an emerging area. Every day, something new is either added to the list that's safe for consumption or removed. For example, gummy bears, probably going to be tough to find a state that's heavily regulated that has gummy bears as an option for a product.
Yeah. As you know, opponents of legalization say pot is a gateway drug, and they are especially concerned about food products and their appeal to kids. What about that?
In my opinion, the states are doing an adequate job of really educating parents and children about consuming and overconsumption of cannabis. And in every state you will see it, the regulations are fairly uniform, that all packaging and labeling cannot be attractive to children, and there must be adequate warning labels and disclaimers about the effects of the product. So I think the states are doing as much as they can to ensure that we have no youth access whatsoever, and that this is really strictly for adults 21 and up that can handle it.
All right. One of the pro-legalization arguments is that money that was going into the hands of criminals will now go to legitimate businesses instead. Are there specific legal measures that you think would help in that regard?
Well, one of the problems that we have from federal prohibition is not necessarily the Department of Justice. Because cannabis is federally illegal, we really have no access to banking, sufficient banking for bank accounts, being able to run payroll through checks. Some type of banking reform, whether it's limited or more comprehensive, would be extremely helpful for public safety in the industry and legitimacy, because running an all-cash business is both inconvenient and dangerous.
It takes a long time for marijuana laws to actually take effect after these votes. Implementation is complicated, as you're pointing out. It took Alaska 2 years. Is there a state that is doing it right?
In my personal opinion, there's really no gold standard. And I think anybody that's been participating in a regulated industry, they know that these rules will change forever and always, and they're always subject to agency interpretation. If anything, Florida actually has been the most aggressive state in the timeline with the implementation of its rules. Those rules must be in place by the Department of Health no later than 6 months after the effective date of the law, which will be January. So they're probably on the fastest track to actually get the industry up and running. But because of challenges and lawsuits and certainly logistics of implementation, we probably won't see licenses issue there until well into 2017.
All right, Hilary Bricken, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And for continuing coverage of the election results, stick with us at foxnews.com. I'm Patti Ann Browne.